Meet my new friend Anthony. Anthony, being half Filipino and half Danish, has a uniquely diverse cultural background. For the past 2 years, he's been on a journey to reconnect with his Filipino roots, an experience that continues to shape both his identity and his content. Anthony makes amazing videos about his life, so make sure to check out his content, link below. Anthony and I had a great conversation. We talked about the cultural differences between Denmark and the Philippines, his search for authentic Filipino experiences, the complex history of colonialism in the Philippines, his goal of becoming fluent in Tagalog, and so much more. I hope you guys enjoy the video. What is your story? You're half Filipino, right?
Yes, my mother's Filipino and my father is Danish, but I grew up in Denmark and haven't really been coming a lot to the Philippines. I only started coming here about 2 years ago, and now I try to go every 6 months. So I've been here 4 times in 2 years.
So like when you were a kid, you didn't go back and forth at all between Denmark and the Philippines?
Hindi po. I mean, after my father passed away, my Danish father, we went to the Philippines when I was 6 years old, and then I didn't go back for like 30 years.
Wow, okay. So you're kind of rediscovering the Philippines.
Completely from scratch.
Is that what your content is about as well? Like, I know that in your bios on like TikTok and stuff, it says, Nag-aaral ako ng Tagalog. So like, is that part of the brand, kind of rediscovering some of your roots?
Opo. Yeah, I mean, I work in tech, I work with like user experience research. So what we do is very anthropological. We try to understand cultures. And with my work in the last 8 years, I've been to 27 countries. And then I realized I know so much about 27 other countries than a country that I'm actually from. So a few years ago, I just decided that, okay, it's time to reconnect with my Pinoy heritage, because I realized I've become so Danish growing up in Denmark that I had no idea what it meant to be Filipino. So that's why I started learning Tagalog sa online platform. So I've had the same teacher for 2 years. Nakatira siya sa Bulacan. Shout out to Ella. So doing a TikTok just actually was for fun for my teacher. So I would do a video for every class, just whatever I had back home, like ang pagkain ko, or ngayon papasok ako sa opisina, or just like these small things. So I would start to nakausap Tagalog or on an everyday basis. I wasn't really doing it for people to start to follow it. It was just for fun. But I don't have a lot of followers, but I have like 3,500, and they are really, really loyal subscribers, I'd say, kasi they correct my Tagalog, which is super helpful kasi mahirap ang Tagalog talaga para sa akin. So it's really nice when I conjugate verbs the wrong way. A housewife from Bulacan or vegan was like, oh, you have to say this instead. It's like, salamat po ate. And so it really helps me learn. And it was the followers that helped me to learn how to incorporate na in sentences, like kain na, tara na. Because I would just say kain na yon, which didn't really make any sense. But then someone told me to say, you should say kain na. Like, okay.
For us English speakers, learning Tagalog can be a real challenge. Trust me, I've been there. That is exactly why I decided to create my beginner's Tagalog course. With over 10 years of experience speaking Tagalog, I made sure that each and every video lesson is jam-packed with only the most useful information. When it comes to this course, the only thing I regret is not having it when I first started learning Tagalog. Ready to learn? Click the first link in the video description below to get started. Now, back to the video. Filipinos are proud of their language, and so they want to help people, get better. I noticed that with my videos too. Like, I had this series, it was like 3 Filipino words that don't exist in English, and they were just like shorts that I made. And a lot of the comments were people like kind of arguing about like the definition of words and, whether there is a version that we have in English or not, and, all that kind of stuff. And so I would imagine that your videos would also bring in a group of people wanting to help you with like verb conjugation and stuff. So that's cool.
Of course, 100%.
I think everyone that learns Tagalog has to kind of decide what register of the language they want to use, right? Because it's not so simple in Tagalog like it is maybe in other languages. The deep Tagalog is almost a different language than the informal kind of street jargon that people use. Like when you're learning a new word, how do you decide if it's too deep or too academic to use or learn?
I mean, for me, I have no idea.
Okay.
Because I don't know, I can't distinguish between deep Tagalog or everyday Tagalog. Well, I'm starting to see it in text language when people are commenting on my videos. The first one that confused me a lot was NM,
And oh
naman.
yeah, okay. Naman,
So
yeah.
I've started to notice like some more slang, daily types of lingo. But my teacher is teaching me deep, proper Tagalog, like the very classic. But some of the Tagalog is also messing with my mind because Tagalog is my 7th language I'm learning. And
Oh my God.
yeah, and I quit doing Spanish a few years back because it was messing up my French because it's so similar. But now in the past 2 years when I have to learn Tagalog, I mean, I have to learn a lot of Spanish words because of the colonization, diba? So like everything in terms of damit, like pantalón, sombrero, vestida, all of those words are Spanish. The time, counters. So it's messing with my head, all of these languages. And yesterday I had a meeting with my colleagues back home in Denmark because I'm working remotely right now from the Philippines. And I had to speak in Danish and I was like, nothing could come out of my mouth. I was just like,
Yeah, the more languages you have, the more confusing it gets, I guess.
Exactly. So like I speak 7 languages really bad.
What is your first language then?
Noong bata ako sa bahay namin, we spoke English. Kasi ang tatay ko, he could not speak Tagalog. So my father and my mother spoke English together. And then my brother, father, and we spoke Danish. Tapos, ang tatay ko passed away when I was 5. Then my lola moved from the Philippines to Denmark to live with us. Then my mother and lola spoke Tagalog, and I spoke English with my mother and lola, and my brother and I spoke Danish. So we had tatlong languages sa bahay ko. So it was just a mix of everything. So even though I didn't officially learn Tagalog, I've been hearing it all my life. So I understand a lot, but the language that I know is the language that was at the time when my mother left the Philippines. So she left in the 80s. So what I've been hearing is like an 80s version of Tagalog. So there's like a discrepancy between the 80s and now when I hear people on the street. And then living in Denmark, in the 6th grade, it's mandatory to take German as well. And then in the 8th grade, I added on French. And then my bachelor's degree was half in French. And then I moved to China, so I had to learn Chinese. And then I did Japanese for 3 years as well. So yeah, I'm really hoping that in my old age, I won't get dementia because I don't know which language I will choose. It's gonna be like...
So there was never a time where you actually spoke Tagalog?
I mean, I would only say like small sentences like alis na ako, something like that, or gutom ako, or if I thought my mom was being annoying, I would say bastos to her, or I mean, just these like small little things. But yeah, for my mother, living in Denmark is a very white society. So my mom was also very much, you have to be as Danish as possible. I was always taught, like, do not use your middle name when you apply for jobs, just your first and last name. So I would be perceived as Danish as possible. Foreigners has not been treated very well in Denmark in like the 90s. I mean, it's not a unique case for me. There's many nationalities that are not perceived as being ideal minorities. So I kind of like also became quite ashamed of being Filipino somehow, because in Denmark there's like a hierarchy of ethnicities. Like there's the cool Asians, which is the Japanese and the Koreans, and then there is the Africans, which is a bit more. Those are also pretty cool. They did a lot of years of slavery and all of that, so you don't really talk bad about people from Africa. But Asians has always been like the pun of many jokes in Scandinavia. Like, oh, if something falls over, oh, let's just have some Asian people come and clean it. I mean, just kind of like people making jokes about Mexicans in the US, I presume. So without like having experienced direct racism, I just kind of became ashamed of my Filipino heritage. And I did like what all my other friends did when we finished high school. I've been backpacking throughout Asia, and I go to Asia a lot for work, but I've been avoiding the Philippines because I didn't really want to, I mean, I wouldn't say it was a trauma, but it was connected with something that wasn't that pleasant for me. And then in my 30s, that's when I kind of realized, hey, wait a minute. These guys, like I should be proud of being Pinoy. And so I'm like unlearning all of that I felt ashamed of. And that shame has now turned into like a pride thing. So I'm super happy that I have my Tagalog lessons twice a week and that I come here every 6 months. And just being like a proud Pinoy. And now when I'm in Europe, because I travel a lot for work, I've said this a few times, but I notice Filipinos everywhere now. And then I'm always just like, hey kuya, or hey ate, or you probably know, you can always do the sound and then see if they turn around. So it's also been a really like joyful journey of reclaiming my heritage somehow, which is super cool. But there's also some elements about being here in Makati and Manila that is like bittersweet, because nobody here can, when they look at me, they don't think I'm Pinoy. And when I'm back home, nobody thinks that I'm Danish. So I'm also like, I just don't fit in anywhere.
Do you see yourself as being more Danish because of that part of your upbringing?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like I identify almost 100% as Danish, but as time goes by, especially learning Tagalog, I'm like reevaluating this identity because it's like, wait a minute, because like I'm starting to feel like I missed out of 20 years of like, or more than 20 years of learning who I am. It's like, I've always been feeling like some sort of gap within, but I didn't know what it was, but I realized that it was that because I was always fully aware that I was half Filipino, half Danish. Because in Copenhagen, where I live, whenever I go to the store or if I'm airport security or basically everywhere I go, people speak English to me. So it's not like, even though I think I'm Danish in my mind, it's like when I interact with people, society doesn't let me be Danish. It's making me aware that I'm not. And it's not because people are like racist or mean. They just assume that I'm not Danish. But that has always annoyed me. But now I'm more like, hell yeah, I'm not Danish. I'm also Filipino. And so like this language journey is also solidifying something that I already had in me. And yes, there are some regrets. Like I'm thinking to myself, oh, couldn't I have done this sooner? And also like looking like this, had I come here in my 20s, I could have been like on advertisement.
Yeah, it's true.
Not to like be up my own ass, but it's like it seems as though they really like people who are mixed race for some reason.
In the Philippines, they love people that are half, especially half Filipino and half white. It's kind of like a favored combination. And yeah, a lot of the actors are exactly that combination, or models you see on billboards and things like that. It's like a mix of the two groups that is really favored in the Philippines for sure.
Yeah, I mean my dream is to like have like a Jollibee ad, or just for a local sari sari store. That would be nice.
So like even when you speak Danish to people in Denmark, do they respond in English, or once they realize that you speak Danish, are they like, oh, okay, we'll do Danish then?
Oh no, then they realize, then they say, oh.
How was that for your mom in Denmark? Like, did she learn how to speak Danish?
She did, but it took her a long time because Danish people tend to switch to English as soon as they detect some sort of accent. Not to be mean, but just to be helpful. So it took my mom about 30 years to learn Danish, not because she's a slow learner, but because she couldn't practice, because people just kept switching into English. And it's the same thing here. People also speak English to me by default. And also I work in a very international company. In my team, there's Germans, Italians, Latvians, Sri Lankans, and they experience the same thing. People just speak automatically to them in Danish. Oh, sorry, English.
I mean, yeah, I was going to say that is something that happens with Filipinos as well. Even Filipinos here in Canada. I've been speaking Tagalog for 11 years, and I don't know how many people I've talked to almost refuse to speak Tagalog back to me. Not always, but I would say the majority of the time, at least at the beginning of the conversation, they will just respond in English, even if I'm speaking Tagalog. And so it does go a little bit deeper than just how you look. Because like you were saying, your experience in Denmark, they look at you and then they go, oh, maybe he's not Danish, I'll speak English. And then when you speak Danish, they'll switch to Danish. With Filipino people, I might say like, Kamusta? And then they go, oh, wow, very good. You speak very well. Excellent. And then I'd say like, oh, matagal na ako nagtatagalog. And then they go, yeah, good. That's good. Very good. But like they don't, sometimes there isn't that point where they like recognize that I can speak enough to hold a conversation. And so it just continues to be a backwards conversation of 100% English on their part and 100% Tagalog on my part. And then at some point I'm like, we could just speak the same language here, right? But you know, there's like some kind of resistance, I guess.
I work with anthropology and sociology, and so I'm always curious about cultures and like that shame of being Filipino that I had. I'm starting to think that I'm not the only Filipino who has that, especially when Filipinos leave the Philippines and work abroad. There is something happening. I don't know what it is, but it's also like, I also feel that a lot of people here are not angry with the Spanish colonizers, but are somewhat proud of been colonized by the Spanish. So it's like, I'm sensing a lot of Pinoy pride from a lot of people, 100%, but I'm also sensing a lot of like shame of like, oh, I only eat American foods or I only eat imported goods. It's like, that's not good. Like, you should be proud of being Pinoy. Like, and maybe that's also why some Pinoys abroad, also like my mother, they don't want to speak Tagalog because like, no, we are Danish, we are Canadian, we are French. I also think there's some animosity between like some Balikbayans and the people who are here. Like some think that they are better because they live abroad and some think they're better because they stayed. I mean, I can't really figure it out, but there is something going on and I'm very curious about it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I've made some of the same observations that you have. There is a kind of preferential treatment for other countries outside of the Philippines. They kind of hold people up a little bit on a pedestal, especially people that are from like the US. And some of it has to do with international relations. You know, the Philippines has a really good relationship with the US. And then some of it has to do with like some internalized colonizer mindsets where it's like, oh, we're not capable of doing this ourselves. We need other people to tell us what's right or, you know, what a good thing is. And which of course I obviously don't agree with that mindset, but you do see it. And it comes through as like a social status thing to speak English. You know, if you can speak English really well, it means you went to a private school or you went to university or you studied abroad, and it's connected with like your economic status a little bit. You know, people that speak English are bougie. And so I think that sometimes when I try to speak with Filipinos in Tagalog and they respond in English, a lot of the time they're just adjusting for me to make my life easier, right? They're just being kind. And sometimes there's almost like a bit of a battle that's going on that's saying like, no, I know English. And if just you don't need to speak Tagalog to me because I'm showing you that I went to the school, that I went abroad, that I learned English, that I have this level. It's like asserting a social status on me. And I'm going, hey, I don't know anything about that. I just want to speak the language because I think it's valuable. I 100% agree with you. There's it's a complicated situation with the history with colonizers and how language was brought in, and it still affects people today like a lot, like how people think.
Yes, 100%. But that's why like the past couple of years I've been coming here, I've also been searching for this Pinoy pride. And because I brought two of my friends here the first time I was here. I flew them out to come and join me for my last week because like I decided I'm going to go to the Philippines for a month and a half, and then my last week here I'll fly out two friends and they'll see what I see. So, and they were like afterwards, are we in America? Because there was so many like fast food chains and American products everywhere. But the last couple of times I've been here, I've been like really exploring a lot, and I've found so many cool places of young Pinoys opening a coffee shop, art galleries, creative spaces, and I think they're really working for making the Pinoy future, and I'm loving it 100%.
Nakapunta ka na sa probinsya?
Apo, last week I went to Catanduanes. That is an island to the west from Manila. It's the island that's always on the news during Baguio season because that's where all the hurricanes hits first. But it was so great there. It's in the middle of the ocean. Well, I mean, the Philippines is in the middle of the ocean. Pero ang resort namin was sa loob ang maliit barangay, Barangay Batag. And it was just beautiful, walang signal sa phone ko. And then I discovered the most amazing Filipino invention that I have ever experienced. And I'm just like, I'm living for it. Piso Wi-Fi. Do you know what that is?
Piso Wi-Fi, no.
It's like in the Tondo, sa Manila, or in the more like rural parts of Manila, and then in the provincia, there isn't that much signal, or people who cannot afford having a phone subscription with unlimited data. You go to the Sari Sari store, and it has like a box, and you can always recognize them because where you put in money, it's like blinking. And then
Oh.
for 5 pesos, you get 1.5 hour of unlimited data.
Oh,
So it's called
okay.
peso Wi-Fi because you can put in a peso. So I went to the Sari Sari store and then I just sat down with all of the other people from the barangay. We were all just like, and it was super hot and I had to do my Tagalog lesson with my teacher. So I had my tripod with my phone and I was just sitting next to all of these Pinoys. And then I was doing my Tagalog lesson and I'm sure they thought I was weird, but it was such a magical experience.
Because what I found is like in the Philippines, there is a lot of American influence in a lot of different ways, but there's also kind of bubbles of that. You know, like if you're in Makati, if you're in BGC, it feels very American for sure. I mean, even just like the population, a lot of the people that walk around are foreigners. You know, a lot of people look like me, and expensive restaurants and bougie bars and clubs and stuff. And then as soon as you get out of those hubs and you go into the more rural provincial areas, it feels much more authentic. Then you have, kids just cruising around playing basketball in the streets, and you have like, smaller, kind of more modest homes, and you have more authentic restaurants and carinderias and things like that. And so like the Philippines itself has an American influence, but you can kind of pick and choose how authentic you want your experience to be in terms of like totoong kulturang Pilipino, right? And that's really what I was looking for. I got tired of BGC and Makati very quickly because I was like, I could just stay in Vancouver, right? I'm here because I like Filipino culture. I'm not looking for Western comforts. I'm looking for Filipino things that are new and interesting to me. And so, yeah, I think that the more you get out, the more you can see that for sure.
100%. And also how much heat you can take. I mean, it also has a physical barrier. It's like, okay, I need to find some AC. Like, gusto ko pumunta sa Binondo. I really love it there kasi may ang fried siopao. Ay, sobrang sarap. And tapos din, malapit sa Binondo, may ang Divisoria. Have you been to the
Mm-hmm.
Divisoria?
Aha, nakapunta na ako doon.
I just love it because it's so Filipino. I know there are different levels of Filipino, but it feels very local. And at the same time, I also feel like when I'm there, I'm not being too intrusive. It's not like I'm at a zoo looking at local people. I feel like I'm part of it. So I tend to stay in Poblacion in Makati because for me, that little neighborhood has like a very local feel. I mean, it's like I'm looking down on it. I don't know, can you even see it? So this neighborhood, this is where I usually walk around, and sometimes in the morning I go down and get a pandesal because it has that local feel. But anyways, when I go to Binondo from here, it's like it takes me an hour or so to get there. But I go out to the street, tapos sumasakay ako ng jeepney, then I change to the LRT, and then I walk from the LRT station to Binondo, and it's like an event in itself para sa akin.
That is the authentic experience. I was at the Divisoria and a few different areas kind of in that neighborhood, and I loved it. The same thing. I think that is like the most authentic Filipino feel that I got in all of Manila. I think when you go out into the provinces, you find it more frequently, but in Manila, I mean, that felt amazing. Like you said, you feel like you're a part. You get swept away in the chaos, and so you don't stand out maybe as much as being someone who maybe doesn't look like they're from there or something. But I mean, talking about your journey and your experience kind of rediscovering your Filipino side, what are some of the things that you've noticed? What are the biggest differences between Danish culture and Filipino culture?
Well, one of the biggest things is that I am starting to bruise. Whenever I go to the Philippines, I get bruises here because all Filipinos, especially my family, when you talk and you want to, you pinch under the arm. It's just like, so actually I have a bruise here. That's just one thing, and it's just super fun.
Like when they're joking
And
around, I mean, there's a lot of they like push each other and pinch each other and that kind of thing, right?
yeah, but also just like if you're having dinner, you're sitting at the table and your tita, your aunt wants your attention or something, you just pinch under the arm. It's just like also on the streets, like, hey, come here. Like, okay. That's one thing. And another physical thing, I got injured. I don't know if you can see it, but I got injured on my head the other day because my tita was uuwi siya. And then I took her hand to, the blessing you do. And then she has a very big ring and then it scratched my head. And I was like, ow! And the reason why I'm mentioning it is because, as opposed to Denmark, it's very much like, don't ever come within this space. It's like no physical contact. I mean, yes, you handshake. How are you doing, uncle? Handshake. So that physical thing is like a big difference that I'm starting to notice. Oh, and what else is there of the differences? I mean, family structure. Like, if I say I'm going to a family thing, then it's just 5 people, 8 people having lunch. But when I say that to my Pinoy friends, they think I'm going to something where 100 people is coming when I say family event. So that family structure is also something that I'm not used to, but I'm kind of fond of it because in the Western world, we have our close family and then first cousins. And yes, we are aware of second cousins, but it's like, oh yeah, I know who that person is, but we don't speak. But here is like, those are also your family. Even third cousins, or like, for example, I'm called Tito Anthony to my cousin's kids, and my cousin says that they are my pamumkins. But in Denmark, I would never say those they are my pamumkins because it's like a step further out.
Yeah, it's really separated. Over the last 2 years, you've gone to the Philippines every 6 months, right?
Yeah, sort
And
of. Yeah,
what's the longest that you've stayed at one time?
the longest was 5 weeks, like a month and a half.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of time. How long have you been there now on this trip?
I arrived on the 2nd of June, so I've been here 2.5 weeks.
So, like talking about Filipino culture, what is your favorite thing about Filipino culture?
The favorite thing is the warmth and friendliness, I must say. It's the top one. It's like everyone is so helpful. Yeah, which I really like. I like the fact that people are working hard to do things for their communities. I like the fact that people are very happy and not afraid to put themselves out there, regardless of their socioeconomic background. So, for example, when you're walking on the street or you're in your car going through whatever community you're passing through, you still see that sense of tambayan, people coming together and enjoying what they have and each other's companies. Whereas in Denmark, we tend to be unsatisfied with what we have. We don't enjoy it. We're like, ugh, we could have more. But here, it seems as though we have rice, we have some bangus, we have some manok, and we have some pinsan beers, and we are together. That's what's important. And also, I love the fact when people sing karaoke, it doesn't matter if you sing good or bad. You do it because you enjoy it. As opposed to in Denmark, you would be like, I'm not going to sing because I can't sing. But here, it's not. Yes, of course, it's also nice for the ones who sing very well to show off, but that's not the point. It's like you being you and living your best self during that damn karaoke. And I think that's a Pinoy cultural trait that I really, really like. Like, not being afraid to put yourself out there, not holding back, and doing what you want, of course, within what you have. But just like, I want to sing. Can I sing? Nope. But I'm gonna rock that Celine Dion. My heart will go on anyways.
Yeah.